Okay, challenge advised to schedule. Look at this plan. And when I do this, you can always go back a semester because all my lectures are posted. And look at the first part of like last semester and hope I didn't forget to start it then too. Because sometimes I do. Okay, two things. PERT chart. PERT chart was developed by the Navy in the 50s, called Program Evaluation Review Technique. Basically, and let me just skip ahead to the PERT chart itself. It's a very simple concept, and I like simple stuff. You have a starting point, you have an ending point, this is like demo 1, and you have tasks, and you show dependencies. Task 3 can't be done until task 1 and task 2 are done. You don't reach the end until task 3 and task 4 are done, and you have an estimate of how long each one is going to take. That's it. Any questions on the PERT chart? Let me go back to the slide. Actually, there's one other thing you have to add here. So, you have a box or bubble with the task and estimated duration. Sometimes the arrows represent the task, sometimes the bubbles. It's up to you. Arrows coming in show what tasks must be completed before one can start. Going out showing whether the task cannot start until this one is done. Start with start, end with finish. And you want to indicate task dependencies and a critical path. And let me go to the second sample PERT chart and show you critical path. Once you have done this with estimates, and this is one where the arrows are representing tasks and duration, what you can find out what is the critical path. In other words, what determines the actual time of completion. And it's one where the sum of the paths is the greatest. So, if this task, or this task slip, the whole project slips at this point. If one of these tasks slips sufficiently, it may become the critical path. So all the critical path is, this is your way of determining what your estimated completion is based on your individual ones. Now what you're going to do is you have a fixed deadline here for your thing. So when you start to make your PERT chart, work backwards and say, we really only have 3 days to do this particular task. And then you say, we can't get that done in 3 days. And then you say, what features can we drop from our demo to allow us to actually get done by this fixed date? In other words, you're having to do one of the sins we just talked about, which is you have to deliver on a specific date regardless of what you're building. And all you can do is drop features. Yes?
Do you remember on the top of your head when the demo date is?
No, but I can look it up real quick. I want to say it's like the 16th of March, but that I wouldn't count on that. Hang on a second here. Okay, let's go to the website. Where do I put my glasses? That's calendar. There we go, March 16th. I was actually right. March 16th is the demo. So we're here at March 3rd, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to the demo. And then you've got another 3 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks to your second demo. Then you have the midterm the week after your demos. Okay. So one of the two things you'll have to do is create a PERT chart for your team. And you're going to need input from the team on this because you have to figure out what you're going to want to do is have a PERT chart that should have demo 1 and demo 2. Figure out what you need to do, work backwards, and from that start adjusting and assigning work out. Figure out what you're going to have to do, how much you can parallelize, and how much is really dependent. Now, the other type of chart that you have to do, creating your team's chart. Okay, this is just pretty much what I said. Major tasks, key events, dependencies, first order estimate, draft your PERT chart. There's lots of free templates. If you simply Google PERT chart templates, you'll find all sorts of stuff online. Or you can use video or whatever, lucid charts or anything like that. You must visually identify the critical path, so you're going to have to actually figure out what the critical path is based on your estimates. This will be a painful experience. And it will be a hard experience as a team, because you're going to have to figure out what your actual tasks are, what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get estimates of people you're willing to live with, and deliver on schedule. And then, as you, over the next 6 weeks, you're going to have to adjust that when you say, we didn't get this done. This is the impact on the schedule, therefore this is what we have to drop in order, this is how we have to scale back our anticipation for Demo 1 and Demo 2 accordingly. Any questions? Yes?
Should we start from, should we like make this PERT chart for around like beginning of the semester or like from where we are now?
Oh, where you are now is fine. Because, you know, I will admit I'm the type of person who, you know, when I make a to-do list, first thing I do is say make a to-do list, and I can check that off as soon as I make my to-do list. You might as well start right where you're at. And it's a good assessment for whatever you're doing right now. This is when things are going to start to get real, because really, you know, you've done the requirements and so on. I don't know how many of you have started doing any kind of prototyping, exploratory development, database design, or anything like that. But it's going to get serious right now for your applications. Okay, Gantt chart is a lot like a PERT chart, except where it isn't. This was created by, it's not an acronym, it's actually a guy named Henry Gantt, 100 years ago. And it uses two axes. Well, let me just show it again. It's easier. I should put the diagrams up before the explanation. I suspect how many of you have seen something like this before? You know, basically you've got a timeline here is what you're doing instead of the PERT chart. And you have tasks down here. You can indicate dependencies among them, and you'll see that in the second one. You can indicate who's working on it. Here's a much fancier one. It's the sort of thing you get with Microsoft Project and tools like that, where you do have dependencies. This has to be done before this can start. Estimate of days and so on. It's always so cute. Douglas Adams of Hitchhiker's Guide said, "I love deadlines. I love the whooshing sound they make as he whiz by." So that's often what you end up with this. and this, I can't tell you how many projects I've reviewed where this was prepared once and never updated. And usually within a month, it bore no resemblance to the reality of where the project stood. So this is something you may want to, well, again, let's go back to the explanation. I should change my slide order. You've got the two things, dependencies, gives you a more immediate sense of the actual timeline that you're doing. But it's less compact than PERT, it's harder to see the critical path. So, same data. Now, you should be using the same data for both your PERT and Gantt charts. They should actually be consistent with each other. Gantt chart often identifies the specific people or teams responsible. PERT charts often don't. Again, there are Word and Excel templates available. I've got those on the wiki page. I think I've also got them on the website. Make sure your PERT and Gantt charts agree with each other. And Gantt chart usually makes it easier to break major tasks down into smaller ones. But the deadlines and dependencies should still match. Any questions on this? Now there's a good, for all of you, you've all got another podcast to do. I'm willing to count if you simply watch this amount of the podcast, because it's a really long podcast. But Chuck's got a great one. If you take the first video and start around 60 through 20 and watch to the end, and then the first 20 minutes of the second video. You count this as billable hours. Here are some online resources. I'll get these slides posted up. But Chuck goes into great detail on PERT and Gantt charts. Yeah?
I'm not understanding that. There's two different podcasts?
There's a two-part podcast on Project Management, part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, for part 1, skip till 60 through 20, and watch from there to the end. And then start part 2 and watch the first 20 minutes. And you count that as a single podcast. If you really want to watch the full 2 hours, you're welcome to. It's educational. But If you simply want to get to the meat of it, do that. Yes?
So about half the podcasts like didn't have audio or like they were muted and there's no way to unmute them. I don't know if that's a problem with my own computer.
Anyone else have that problem? Someone else has.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened. I just watched other.
Right, I was just curious if that
Yeah.
was
That shouldn't be there. Now, I know there's a couple different file formats used. In some cases, it's better to download the podcast locally and watch it than to try and watch it through the web. I don't know if that's a particular problem, but that's actually the first time I've heard that issue.
He's kind of talking about
Yeah, we got that. Technology doesn't work well with each other. Another Jerry Weinberger quote from 40 or 50 years ago, so it shows you how long this problem has been going on. He said, if carpenters built buildings the way programmers build programs, the first woodpecker came along with destroyed civilization. So it's amazing. It is a testament to adaptive systems that so much software actually works and is relied upon. In fact, back when I got sucked into Y2K, I ended up doing things. I actually spoke at a Y2K conference in the Middle East, okay, in Beirut. And I was laying out, here are all the problems that you can suffer if your systems have not been remediated for Y2K. And after my talk, I had the vice president of the Bank of Lebanon come up to me and say, we deal with that stuff daily. You know, power outages, data loss, and so on. I thought, that's actually a very interesting insight. There are a lot of issues of infrastructure reliability we tend to take for granted in the U.S. that do not exist in other parts of the world. One of the big surprises with Y2K was that it did not have a bigger impact worldwide, and I think the reason is because they were already used to such unreliability in infrastructure and systems development. They'd already had the manual systems in place to cope with it. So, task assignment, you need both a PERT chart and a Gantt chart. It may be useful if you look at the podcast, Chuck talks about building a task table. That may be an easy way not to try and cram in little task names in your bubbles or in your PERT chart, but simply build a separate table, say task 1 is this, task 2 is this, and so on, and then reference 1, 2, 3 in your PERT chart. The PERT chart needs to show the critical path. Gantt chart should tie to your team members. Make sure that what you produce can be posted and shared on your project wiki so we can actually look at it. Oops, I didn't get all the dates up. Okay, this is this Saturday, not October. We'll go over them next week. And we will actually go over them next week and bring you them up so you can see what other people did. And say ooh and ah, or just laugh, whatever the appropriate reaction is. So your assignment states are right here. So by midnight Saturday, PERT and Gantt chart, latest stats report, watch one podcast. Next class, reading's pretty light. It's one chapter. We're going to talk about architecture next week. So you get one chapter out of Mythical Man Month, one chapter out of Accelerate, and Webster number 4. Any questions? If not, you're welcome to go. If anyone missed being called on a roll, come see me.